Hall of Fame coach and 11-time champion Phil Jackson claims to have stopped supporting the NBA because it became too political by putting slogans on the back of jerseys and Black Lives Matter on the floor. The same Phil Jackson won championships with some of the greatest black athletes, made millions on their backs and off their sweat equity.
Ooh, reaching.
So, Basketball Hall of Famer Phil Jackson, who is a former player, coach, and executive responsible for coaching Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, and Scottie Pippen, is now saying he can no longer watch basketball because it's become too political. Let's talk about it. Before we get into this viral video from Phil Jackson, please like and subscribe. We want as many people to hear this message as possible. So Phil Jackson, who, like I said, is considered the greatest coach in basketball history, was recently having a conversation with Rick Rubin on his podcast where he talked about his inability to watch basketball anymore. Let's hear that clip.
Do you still watch a lot of basketball or?
No, I don't.
Tell me about that. When and did you stop immediately from the time you stopped coaching?
No, I didn't. I watched some of the game evolve and decided, and they went into the lockout year and they did something that was kind of wanky. They did a bubble down in Orlando, and all the teams that could qualify went down there and stayed down there.
No audience.
And they had things on their back like, justice and, I made a little funny thing like, Justice just went to the basket and Equal Opportunity just knocked him down. And somebody had another name for a guy who has jersey in the back of a jersey, had some other slogan. So my grandkids thought that was pretty funny to play up those names. So I couldn't watch that. And the Lakers won, actually. They won that year. And
do you feel like it just made little of the game, like it made it like a sideshow? What do you think it was that turned you off?
Well, it was. They even had slogans on the floor, on the baseline. It was catering. It was trying to cater to an audience or trying to bring a certain audience into play, and they didn't know it was turning other people off. People want to see sports as non-political.
I wonder if that's true, that they didn't know that these political slogans and, shouting for Black Lives Matter and kneeling during the national anthem was turning an audience off. I feel like that would be the logical conclusion to this. Do they really think so many people believe that message that they can go out and grandstand during a game where everybody just wants to watch them play the sport? And they can push this political message and nobody's going to stop watching? And to hear from somebody who is so deeply invested in the sport and has been for so much of his life in virtually every position in the hierarchy of basketball, go, you know what, I can't watch it anymore. It's very unfortunate because you have a lot of people who deeply love the game, who do appreciate the players, appreciate their talent, and just can't sit through these political messages that they continue to get throughout the season.
We've had a lot of different type of players that have gone on to be like, Bill Bradley was a senator, number of baseball players been representatives and senators and political, but their politics stay out of the game.
Yeah, it's separate.
Doesn't need to be there.
And that's a very fair point as well. A lot of people respond and say, why can't they espouse their political views during the game? It's their job, it's their passion. They should be able to mix their personal feelings and their views on politics with what they do, which is why you have certain players kneeling, certain players standing, the Black Lives Matter on the court, and ESPN taking a moment of silence for the LGBTQ community and all of their allies. These things are really happening. But where in time did we start to say your job becomes a moment for political activism? I'm sorry, but you're there to do your job. You're there to play. And hopefully you're passionate enough about the game that you're playing and the position that you're in your career, being in the NBA, that you can set aside your political beliefs until the game is over. These players and all of the executives who are working in this industry have every opportunity to talk about their political views off the court. And that seems to be all that he's asking for. He's saying, of course, go on to be a senator. Go on to wear your Black Lives Matter t-shirt or go to the protests or support the LGBTQ plus community, whatever it is that you want to do. Why does that need to be brought to your job? Why do I need to turn on the TV to watch the NBA and see messages about, equity and inclusion and Black Lives Matter? But you can't say these things, right? Because the NBA now has a deep sort of relationship with leftist and progressive policy and messaging. So now Phil Jackson is under some heat for saying this. Now, a former player who is now an ESPN analyst by the name of Jalen Rose has come after Phil Jackson for what I view as very reasonable commentary on the issue of sports becoming too political. This article out of Outkick says on Saturday, Hall of Fame basketball coach Phil Jackson made headlines when he said he stopped watching the NBA because it became too political. Now, Jalen Rose is very mad at Jackson. Why? Because Jalen Rose agrees with the NBA's political messaging. So if someone goes against it, they're ready for it. Racist. Quote, the NBA was trying to cater to an audience or trying to bring a certain audience to the game and they didn't know it was turning people off, is what Jackson said. Now, here's Jalen's response. Let's hear.
You can't make this up. Hall of Fame coach and 11-time champion Phil Jackson claims to have stopped supporting the NBA because it became too political when it went into the bubble and was catering to certain audiences by putting slogans on the back of jerseys and Black Lives Matter on the floor. The same Phil Jackson that won championships with some of the greatest black athletes in the history of the game.
Pause.
Michael Jordan.
Oof. See, I already know where he's going with this, right? It's the same thing we heard from Colin Kaepernick, right, in the NFL. Oh, you have, these white executives who are making money off of predominantly black players, and then they don't go and support a movement like Black Lives Matter. And they try to make the two things synonymous, that if you don't support Black Lives Matter, it means that you don't like black people, and that you are totally capable of exploiting black people is apparently what he's claiming. That's what he's claiming. Exploitation of black people. You're making money off the backs of black people, much like they say America was built off the backs of slaves. That's what he's trying to insinuate here. And he's saying because you don't support Black Lives Matter, you are racist. I don't support Black Lives Matter. Am I racist towards black people?
Don't ask! For God's sakes, don't ask!
Or is it just a statement that we can throw out because Phil Jackson happens to be a white man? What does Jalen Rose say to black people who don't support Black Lives Matter? Probably that we have internalized white supremacy, right? That deep down inside me, I am Phil Jackson, right? I am an old white man.
It just hit me. I'm white and 35.
That's probably going to be his argument. But guess what? You cannot support Black Lives Matter and still have deeply rooted love, relationships, friendships with black people, respect the black community, if we even want to name such a thing, and not be a racist. These two things can exist in the same realm.
Scottie Pippen, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant made millions on their backs and off their sweat equity. You're sitting up watching the game with your grandkids and y'all think it's funny when justice passes the ball to equal opportunity? When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So stop watching forever.
Oh, and just like in NBA fashion and in all these politicized, facets of our society, just stop watching. Imagine what happens, if everybody who doesn't support that message stops watching the NBA. And you know what? I should mention it. This might just be a classic case of get woke, go broke. Because if we look at NBA ratings for at least their finals of the last 30 years, the highest was in 1998 with 35.89 million. The lowest was in 2020 with 8.29 million. Do you guys remember what happened in 2020? To my recollection, it was mostly peaceful protests in the name of George Floyd. But I remember that happening in 2020. And simultaneously, as the NBA went out and put out all their Black Lives Matter, jerseys and the courts, their ratings dropped to 8.29 million. I wonder why. But if everybody truly took Jalen Rose's opinion here, took it to heart and said, you know what, I will stop watching, you'd see a changed NBA. I bet it. The slogans would be gone. The Black Lives Matter signs would be gone because they want your money. They want the revenue. They don't even truly care about the issue at hand. And really, the players who are choosing to wear these messages should question the NBA's and ESPN's true relationship to their movements. They don't care. They don't care about Black Lives Matter. They don't care about the LGBTQ plus community. But I digress. That's a video for another time. You know, I stand by what Jalen Rose just said there. If you don't agree with your sports becoming politicized, don't watch it. See how quickly they change their tune. See how quickly they start tap dancing in the other direction. So there you have it. In my opinion, Phil Jackson is right. Shouldn't be watching the NBA. There's no reason to watch the NBA when they feel they need to shove political messaging down your throat. They are trying to spin narratives constantly to promote their own personal worldview to their audience. Keep your politics outside the court. You have every opportunity to talk about the way you feel, to run for office, to go to a protest, whatever it is that you want to do. You do that on your time off, not out on the court, where you're supposed to be creating a game and an entertaining experience for everybody who wants to watch your show. Who wants to go and watch something and be alienated? But it's happening everywhere right now. It's happening in schools. It's happening in Hollywood. Now it's happening in sports. All these places that we never thought would become strong political conversations have now become exactly that. And it needs to stop. So my advice to you guys, if you hate it too, stop watching. It's not worth it. And they will change their tune. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we post a video for you guys, which is every single day, and leave a comment down below. What are some other political messaging that you've seen in your sports or whatever it is that you like to watch? Because I'm sure it's everywhere. It's not just ESPN. It's not just the NBA. It's not just the NFL. It is everywhere. Drop your thoughts down below. And as always, we encourage healthy debate in the comments. So go at it, guys.